But today we have three main areas, and then you'll see some of the subcategories when we get to them. We're going to first talk about the pilot programs, because there are a lot of pilot programs that are available with this release that people may want to participate in, and we want to make sure you know what those are so that if you're interested, we can try and get you signed up. Then we're actually going to roll into the key highlights that we picked out to feature on the call today for the release 1 for Sage Intacct, and then we'll do the live Q&A session. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to discuss the pilot programs, and just to kind of give you an overall list, and we're going to go into the details of these, we have the Copilot Close Assistant, the Enhanced Currency Support for funds transfers, the new affiliate entity dimension for consolidations, the lending management, which is going to be a new module that they're testing for Intacct. There's an improved platform trigger creation for post requests. We'll discuss what that is. Enhancements for AP automations and purchasing, which we'll cover a little later because that just rolled out to everybody with the release. And this is an enhancements pilot program for what they just released on Friday. And then support for term discounts for taxes and creating custom tax reports to help you out. So we're just going to go through each of these pilot programs. If you're interested in participating in any of these or have any questions, we can answer some questions during the Q&A, but definitely reach out to us and we'll help you figure out how to apply for these pilot programs if you're interested in them. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Copilot Close Assistant. And basically what this does is it kind of helps simplify the navigation of close tasks in the subledgers and the general ledgers, and delivers insight into the close status across all entities and subledgers in one clear summary view. So what's going to happen if you run Copilot Close Assistant, you can actually see which applications you have, whether it's GL, AR, AP, cash management, and any of the close related tasks. You can see which books are closed at a quick glance. You can see if there are any unposted items that are sitting in the system. And then there are other things that you can do, like reviewing bank reconciliations, running Copilot variance analysis, some different things like that. And so if that's something that y'all are interested in learning more about, please reach out and let us know. We're going to go ahead and move forward to the next pilot program, which is the Enhanced Currency Support for funds transfers. This is for anyone that we have who is using multi-currency and has the need to make deposits or fund transfers using multi-currency features. This is a pilot program where you can now process the funds transfers with up to 3 unique currencies without having to create a manual journal entry. Again, this is a pilot program. When you create the funds transfer, you just have to enter the amount sent and the amount received. You don't have to add an exchange rate. Based on what you enter, Intacct will select the most accurate exchange rate, and then it will, if it needs to, create that rounding entry that needs to happen due to rate change differences. So if you're interested in that, let us know. The next one is the new affiliate entity dimension, which is specifically for consolidation. So this is for anybody who is currently subscribed to and using consolidations in Intacct. And basically what happens is this pilot program, they're testing the affiliate entity, and it will automatically tag automated inter-entity journal entries. You can also use it to affiliate entity dimensions to manually tag general ledger journal entries. And so if you have an interest in participating in this pilot program, please let us know. The affiliate entity tagging benefits the inter-entity reconciliation process. You can get the balance of accounts for the affiliate affiliate entity dimension value. An example of that is that if you have a management company as one entity and you have 15 entities as receivables, you can now use the affiliate entity dimension to report on that inter-entity activity and easily reconcile it against the inter-entity payables for all 15 entities. And then you can also use it to automate eliminations within your consolidations. And so if you want to see what some of these new features are and you're interested in participating, again, let us know so we can try and help get you registered. One of the other pilot programs is a lending management module that Intacct is looking at rolling out, and they have a pilot program for people to participate and test it. As a lender, you can now manage loans, handle everything from origination to payoff, all within that complete module. It includes a full subledger to track and report on and handle real-time portfolio insight and help you prepare for your audit. It helps with the flexibility of being able to disperse loans so that when loans are funded, you can disperse the funds directly to the borrower or the third party specified by the borrower. You can manage the non-amortized and amortized loans. Since some events require amortized loans to be re-amortized, with a few selections, you specify the details on how to re-amortize the loan, and you can preview the new amortization schedule before proceeding. There's also a way to easily generate and distribute loan statements. It'll automatically calculate interest and generate the loan statements, and then you can email those to your borrowers. You can also gain insight from the reporting and analysis tools, so you can get information that you may need for the amortization schedules, the lending management sum ledger, and the roll forward balances. And you can group the loan products that you offer into categories to create more valuable and focused reports. So if this is something, if you do a lot of lending management, it might be worth signing up for this pilot program here. The next one, and this one I'll do a little bit of explaining, this improved platform trigger creation for post requests. What this is, so if you have things that have API calls, let's say you have your accounts payable tied to another system or your payroll tied to a payroll system. What this is they're actually looking at helping by creating a platform trigger request to actually send information out to the other system that is handling your information. So an example, like let's say you have a location that's in Intacct and you actually update that location in Intacct. What this trigger creation for post requests will do is it'll take that updated location information and it'll actually send a post request out to the system that you have integrated with Intacct to go ahead and try and update that record in that system. Like I said, this pilot program, they're still testing it. But this is something that's being offered, and the system will actually go ahead and send that communication and information up to 4 times. You will find out whether it was successful or not when it's sent. So if anybody has a lot of integrations, and this is something that may save you time with the systems being connected and making sure that if you update something in Intacct, it also updates in the other system, it might be worth considering participating in this. I know we've thrown a lot at you. We have 2 more. These are specifically related to if you are using the internal taxes that are available for accounts payable and order entry in Intacct. So there are 2 things that are available. One is support for the term discounts for taxes. And basically, what that really is that you know, when you're applying term discounts and calculating tax on those discounts, it can vary depending on what region you're in. And now what you can do is you can select the calculation method for anything in accounts receivable or order entry to meet the requirements of the area you're operating in. And the calculation method determines how the term discount is applied to the transaction. There are 3 different ways that can be applied through this pilot program. One is the line item total excluding taxes, another is the line item total including taxes, and the other is the invoice total including taxes and added charges. So if this is something that you think you would benefit from, if you're using those tax features in Intacct, let us know. This would not apply if you're doing Avalara tax or something that integrates with Intacct. This is the native Intacct taxes. And the last one that we have is for creating customized tax reports in Intacct. Basically, the reason that they designed this is that the tax report feature for this pilot program will give you more flexibility to create the reports that you need to match the box reports required by your specific tax authority. You'll be able to create these reports via a 3-step process in this pilot program. You'll actually define the boxes, actually define what is included to calculate the dollar amounts that would hit each box. So you'll actually define those, and then you'll actually create the tax report format so that it looks like the report you actually have to file with your tax agency, and then you'll be able to run the report out of Intacct. So if that is something that y'all would be interested in, again, any of these pilot programs, please let us know and we can help you get applied to those. Those are actually all of the pilot programs that we wanted to cover that are available. So thank you for hanging on for that. Now we'll roll into the actual release 1 highlights that we wanted to cover and discuss during our meeting today. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the list. So what we've decided we're going to go through today on the call is 1, we're going to talk about authenticating and validating your custom domain that you may have registered in Intacct before May of 2025. That's a requirement that Intacct has. We'll discuss that a little more when we get to the slide. We're going to talk about the enhanced list views that Intacct has available. And if my computer cooperates, I will share an Intacct instance and kind of show you some of the features because I think it's pretty neat. We'll talk about the Copilot variance analysis. This is different from the Copilot close process that we discussed that's in testing as a pilot program. This Copilot variance analysis actually exists right now and is something you can activate in your system. They've made some updates to general ledger journals, and we want to review that with you because you can actually now go in and prevent posting to specific journals, direct posting to specific journals, which is an update that I know a lot of people have been asking for a while. There's some new variance analysis reports that are available, so we're going to take a look at those. And then we also wanted to review AP automation with purchasing. And then Intacct has added a vendor-based approval for bill routing, so we're going to talk through that. And then we also wanted to talk through and introduce you to Sage Intacct supplies inventory and give you a little introduction there. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the first topic, which is making sure we authenticate and validate the email sender domain by May 2025. For anybody who may not understand what that email sender domain is in Intacct, basically, Intacct actually allows you to go ahead, you know, when you're emailing things out of Intacct, you can actually put your own domain name with your own company name as the @ whatever, so that it matches your branding more. It's not coming from Intacct. And when you do that and you set that up in your company settings with your domain name being in the system, Intacct is now requiring that get validated for several reasons by May of 2025, so that if you're using that custom domain, there's more security. Like I said, this domain name, it allows Sage Intacct to send invoices, statements, or other emails on behalf of your domain name to your customers, which allows, one, more likelihood of your customers actually receiving your emails because they're used to receiving emails from your domain name. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Need to get a little sip of drink here. And so basically what happens is you'll need to actually go in and authenticate the domain in Intacct. There's an action that can be taken. We've kind of put a few steps here. We can give you more details on exactly how to get it done, but you actually will want to follow some of the processes. It can take up to 72 hours for the email domain to be validated. So this is a process you want to start before the end of May so that you can make sure that you don't experience any disruption in service from being able to use your own domains when you are sending emails out of Intacct or having the system send invoices, what have you. The next thing we wanted to talk about was the enhanced list views that are available in Intacct. And what I'm going to try and do here is actually pull up my system, but I'll not do a couple of things. Basically, what ends up happening when you are in Intacct, and I'm so sorry, my screen is blipping out a little bit. I'm just going to kind of pull this in. Basically, what happens, I'm going to bring up a live instance of Intacct here, is that when you go into a list screen, and what I've done is I've just kind of gone to the vendors. They're not available in every list screen yet, but they are in about 3 or 4 places right now. But what you may see, and I just went to vendors because I know that's kind of where they started, is you can click on this turn on enhanced list. You can also turn it off, so never be afraid to click on it. But what it does when I click on it is it's actually going to bring up a lot more options that I can use when I'm in here in my views. I can still add new views. I can still come over here and change my views from a system view to a user view if it exists. But there are some neat features that are available in here, and I wanted to show you some of them. So like one of them, you can actually come in to any column that has the option, and you can actually just freeze your view at a specific column. And what that means is if you've put a lot of columns in your view, you can actually lock your ID and your vendor name, let's say in this case, and you can actually be able to scroll either way and see what's going on. So that's kind of a nice thing. I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze it. Another thing that you can do is you can actually take and drag and drop columns to have them sit in a different order just by dragging and dropping. Another thing is you have some filters that you can use on any of your columns. And so you can come in here and you can choose some different filtering options and then enter information here and hit apply or even clear your filters. And so this is kind of an option you have just from your list view to actually do things that you used to have to do when you were building a custom view. Another neat thing that I wanted to show you is you also have an option here to actually click on this and actually have your, for example, vendor list here, but also be able to see your actual vendor here. If you have this view selected, and you can select it back and go back to the view that you're more used to, and you can even turn off the enhanced list. So I just kind of wanted to show y'all what some of that looked like. And I would definitely say play around with it. I know that as an accountant turned implementer, I don't always like it when people move my cheese and make things look different, but sometimes when we play around with it, it can actually work out really well in our favor. So I'd say give it a try if you're adventurous and see how you like it. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the Copilot variance analysis. So basically, this is a feature that's available in Intacct that provides insight into budget and prior period differences so business leaders can be proactive and investigate discrepancies and address any spending concerns that are going on. Copilot will notify you so that you're in the loop if something's going on with the budget or against prior year, or if it sees anything that's kind of out of the loop. It is something that you have to turn on and let go through your data for a little while, but you can actually get information and drill into report insights and see exactly how your budget's doing. And get detailed breakdowns and visualizations. If we kind of talk about some of the things that are related with Copilot variance analysis, you can get those automated alerts that I talked about. They have real-time variance tracking. You can visualize your financial data through intuitive charts and graphs for easier understanding. You can do some drill down analysis through reports. You can get some variance analysis insights, and then you can visibly get into data that is relevant for your budget areas. Like, for example, a department manager would be able to see variance analysis for specific departments, while someone else in the company would see something that is available organization-wide instead of specific to just one department. One of the things I wanted to note about the Copilot variance analysis that's now available is that they are rolling it out to customers in phases. So if you are interested in activating Copilot variance analysis, there is a form that we need to complete because they are going to be rolling it out to people basically kind of on a first come, first serve basis. And so we want to get that form filled out, and then we will work with, y'all can work with us, and we will work with Intacct to get your subscription going. So if it's something you're interested in, please let us know and we will help you get that going. As we continue, another thing we wanted to talk you through is those general ledger journal updates that I mentioned. And being able to disallow direct posting to specific journals. So the reason I know a lot of people have asked for this in the past, and one of the reasons I was excited when I saw that it came through, is especially for accounts payable, accounts receivable, and possibly even your payroll journal, being able to disallow direct posting to a specific journal, so that someone goes in to the GL and is actually entering a journal entry, they won't be able to post to that specific journal as long as you have this checkbox selected. So we just wanted to make sure everyone knew it was there. You knew how to turn it on. If for some reason this is something you're like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for that, you have problems figuring it out, reach out to us. We'll help you get it set up and figured out. It's just when you go into the journal, it's an extra checkbox that looks exactly like what you're seeing on the screen. And in that blue circle, you're just going to check the box, disallow direct posting. But like I said, if you need help, just let us know. We're happy to step in and help you with that. The next thing we wanted to talk about is there are some new variance analysis reports that are available in Intacct. One of them is just a straight variance analysis report. One is going to give you the variance analysis by department. The other one will give you a breakdown of variance analysis by location. These are reports that are already built in Intacct. You just actually have to go to the report library and actually install them in the system. There are some instructions in the release notes on how to do that. If for some reason you have questions and you want help with getting that done, we can always help y'all with that. You do have some options once you have loaded those reports to actually go into the report and do some additional configuration to them in the filters area, maybe even take some of them and save them with specific filters already in place so you don't have to run them with those specific filters already in there. But if there's anything you need or you have any questions on how to do that, please let us know, and we're happy to get those together. But these reports are already built with that variance analysis with the different coloring showing things that are in the green, things that are in the red, different things like that. So definitely worth taking a look. The next thing we want to talk through is AP automation with purchasing. This is a big thing that people have been waiting for. I'm so excited. It is finally here. I don't know how many of you are currently using AP automation right now, but until this specific release, they did have a pilot program going on that was testing it, but they now have rolled it out to everybody. AP automation, when you actually get a bill that is loaded into the system via email, or you import it in if you have AP automation. You used to only be able to take those bills and have them generate in accounts payable directly. Now you can have them generate in purchasing. And not only that, it will take the vendor invoice and it will match it to the purchase order or receiver in a draft mode, so that you can review it and do everything you need. So it'll actually streamline your process. You actually come in and you define how incoming purchase documents will map to existing source transactions in a one-time setup. That's kind of what you're seeing here a little bit in the screenshot, but you'll actually define that. And then instead of converting purchasing transactions to vendor invoices, you're actually letting Sage Intacct match the incoming vendor invoices using the workflow that you've set up where the email or the upload comes in. Intacct will use AI to detect the vendor and match the vendor invoice to a purchasing transaction. The system will create a draft vendor invoice for you with the source document attached. The line items will populate based on the match source transactions, and you will review the draft vendor invoice and validate it against the source document so you can make any corrections, and then you will actually post it. Your corrections, if there are any, will be fed back into the AI, and that will help the AI learn and make better decisions the next time something comes in. So what ends up happening is there is an automated transaction list. So this is something that will be created in the purchasing area. So incoming documents will default as draft transactions in that automated transaction list. You can actually change and update everything as much as you need to before you actually post anything. And Intacct, just like it does in accounts payable, will flag anything that it perceives as duplicates that have been previously uploaded so that you actually can see that. I know the screenshot is a little small, but that's what this right here is. Anybody who's actually already using AP automation will recognize what that is, but that's kind of a flag right there. And remember, everything will come in draft state. As we're continuing, again, your transaction in view and edit mode, you do get, for anybody who hasn't used it, you do get kind of this dual screen view where you can actually see the vendor invoice entry screen and then the actual document that was scanned in and that is attached to the transaction, so you can actually see both of them and do comparisons and make any updates that you need to make. One of the things that is kind of neat and a feature while you're in here is one of the things that we realize is that once you actually set this up and you have it related to purchasing, it will start defaulting your AP automation vendor invoices to the purchasing module as opposed to accounts payable if you have purchasing set up and you're using purchasing. But you always have an option to take that bill that you're bringing into the system that's come in as a vendor invoice and change it back to an AP bill. An instance where this might be something that you want to do are things that don't require a purchase order, like your utility bills, different things like that. And if that's something that you're going to do, one of the nice things, anytime you change a vendor invoice to an AP bill to move it to accounts payable instead of coming from purchasing, there's going to be a checkbox that actually pops up that you can check for specific vendors that will always create the transactions for that particular vendor as an AP bill instead of trying to send it through vendor invoice. And the way that that's done is by this box right here, this always create transaction for this vendor as an AP bill. You don't have to check that box, but if you do check that box and you hit OK, anytime a bill comes in through AP automation for that vendor, it'll automatically send it as an AP bill instead of trying to send it as a vendor invoice through purchasing. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was an option. The other thing is email documents. Again, I kind of mentioned this before, but it's worth talking through again. The email documents will default to purchasing transaction when AP automation for purchasing is enabled. But again, like we just talked about in the previous slide, you can actually change that default preference to create AP bills in the vendor record if you need to, and you have that checkbox that we discussed. So really exciting that this feature is rolling out. Again, if this is something that you've already been waiting for, you're excited it's here, and you want to participate in the enhancements that they're already working on for the pilot program, to help kind of guide what happens with the next iteration and improvements for AP automation, let us know. We can get you signed up for the pilot program, but if you want to get this activated, we can help you with that too. I just kind of wanted to put that out there. I know that was a lot of information, but thank you for hanging in there with us. There are just a lot of exciting things that came out this time, and we're trying to cover the most exciting ones. Something to give us a kind of a little bit of a break and a little bit less to wrap our minds around. There is a vendor-based approval that has now been put in for bill routing. So, you know, we have had people in the past ask, you know, for specific vendors, can I just have one person approve it? And we really didn't have a way to elegantly do that in Intacct. Well, Intacct heard us, and they've now created this. So actually on the vendor record, you now can actually assign a specific bill approver to that record. And then when you go and you put in your accounts payable bill approval policies, there's this vendor-based approval step that is available, and you can add it to any of your bill approval policies. And so basically, anytime a bill comes in for that vendor, as long as you've got that policy built in to your AP bill approval steps, if you have a bill approver assigned, it will go directly to that person. If you don't have a bill approver assigned, the bill will actually go through the rest of the AP bill approval process that you already have set up. Now, one of the things we wanted to make sure you know is there are two ways that you can update this information in Intacct. You can either specifically go into each of the vendor records and update it manually in the system, or what you can do is you can actually upload those updates. There's now that this new field has been added in Intacct, there is a new field in the vendor upload file, and you can upload that information to your vendor records via this bill approver ID column. One of the things, I know everybody who's on here is an expert, just remember, if you're going to do this and you're updating your vendor list, take only the columns you need, like the vendor ID and the bill approver ID column, and put them into an update file and get your approvers assigned and upload it. The reason you don't want to have a bunch of other empty columns is that if you leave a bunch of empty columns in there with headers, it'll override your actual real data in the system with blank information if you've left all of those extra columns in there. So just fair warning, don't want anybody to have a heart attack if they clear some of their data by accident. That's never a fun or good thing. And so kind of the last thing that we wanted to talk you through is something called supplies inventory in Intacct. And kind of the exciting thing about supplies inventory, this can actually be used by people who actually do track inventory and are using inventory control right now, or it can be used by people who are not using inventory control but just want to track and keep a better handle on their internal supplies that they're using, whether it's, office supplies, printers, printer paper, pens, whatever it is that you're using internally and distributing to different departments in-house. Supplies inventory is meant to be an internal way to be able to track and manage any employee requests for items that are needed to run the business and any of the supplies that people just need to get their day-to-day jobs done, but that aren't actually going out to customers. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge that. Basically, there are two ways for you to subscribe to supplies inventory. If you already are someone who is using inventory control, it's just actually enabling a checkbox, and there is no extra fee or cost because you're already subscribed to inventory control. If you are someone who is not using inventory control, you're not actually keeping track of item counts and costs related to anything that you sell to your customers, but you still have this internal need for the supplies inventory that you're discussing, you can actually subscribe to just supplies inventory. There is a cost related to that, so if you need information on that, please let us know. Want to make sure you know there's cost related to it. But there are going to be some restrictions if you don't subscribe to full inventory control because you don't need it. You just need to know that there are certain limitations of things that you won't have access to because you're just tracking internal supplies and internal supplies inventory. So we wanted to make you aware of that. So one of the things that we wanted to call out are some of the considerations that go into actually doing this. Your users will need to complete some initial steps to get everything set up in the system. And it's going to be based and dependent on whether you're already using inventory control or if you're planning on just using supplies inventory. There are some things that are going to happen regardless. You're going to have advanced workflows enabled. You'll have to have, if you're already using inventory control, you're going to have to enable supplies inventory. And then at a bare minimum, you're going to have to make sure that the vendor and the employee dimensions are available and selected in your dimensions setup. So that is something. There are also some changes that'll need to be made in GL to accommodate some of this, but there are detailed instructions on how that gets done. So if you're interested in supplies inventory, one, I would suggest going to the detailed notes, but two, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help you with all of the details. Some of the things that we also wanted to mention about how supplies inventory functions is that after you turn on supplies inventory, the system is actually going to automatically generate 3 transaction definitions. One of those transaction definitions is going to live in the purchasing module, and 2 of those transactions are going to live in inventory control. The transaction definition in the purchasing module is supplies requisition, which is going to be where an employee can create a requisition for internal supplies. The 2 things that are going to be set up in inventory control are going to be a system supplies issue and a system supplies return. Those are going to actually be inventory control accounts used for when you issue supplies out or when supplies are returned to you from a department who requested them. Again, if you have specific use case needs that you want to talk through with us, that you think this might be useful for, let us know. We're happy to set up a call and talk you through it and talk through some of the different options that are available. But one of the things that we want to do is you'll notice that you are going to have to create items for supplies inventory. The item type will be inventory. One of the things that you need to know for any of the items that are used with supplies inventory, it actually cannot be used in order entry transactions, so it has to be a separate item from anything that you're actually selling and issuing to customers. Just want to make sure that y'all understand that. And just so you know, as soon as an item that you have created for supplies inventory has been used in a transaction, you are not going to be able to change it to a non-supply item. Same thing if you create an item and you use it to sell something to someone, you're not going to be able to go back. As soon as it's in an order entry transaction, you're not going to be able to make it a supplies inventory item. So we just want you to understand that as well. I know that kind of took up all of our time. I'm sorry, we had a lot to get through today, but we appreciate you hanging on. We have now hit the live Q&A session, and I'll go ahead and let Kim step in and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Ansley. And obviously there was a wealth of new items to share. So I think you have just wowed our attendees here because they have been radio silent in the chat. However, I did discover that I can also unmute you. So if you want to use the Teams features to raise your hand, if you would rather speak a question, or you're welcome to use the chat. I don't know if you have the ability to unmute yourself, but I, the great and powerful Oz, as moderator, can do that. So if anyone wants to, I believe the ability to raise your hand will alert me, or, you know, we hope to make this a more comfortable environment where we can interact with you all, and you can just, you know, be candid and comfortable to ask all the questions. I'm a big believer there's no silly ones, so we're here for them. But I will be mindful of what the time that we did ask you all for. So if you do need to go, this has been recorded, and we will distribute that recording within the next 24 hours as well. Oh, we got one though. Shannon, thank you so much for asking. So Shannon asks, is there a need for an outside AP processing system like Tipalti? Is the Intacct system able to handle multi-entity AP?
So yes, the Intacct system can handle multi-entity AP. What I would say is It depends on the complexity of what you have going on, what your approval processes are, and then also there is always the limitation of how many users you may need to pay for in Intacct for your processes to actually go through. So one of the things I would say is, Shannon, if that's something where you want to talk through your actual specific process, and would Intacct be able to accommodate that? Or would it be better to go with a third-party integration? Let us know and we can walk through that.
Awesome. Very good. And Logan, oh, I thought I saw your hand raised and may have had to drop, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Let's see. Oh, I do think we lost him, but I can see everyone who raises their hands, so please feel free to use that. If you do need to leave, of course, that makes sense. Like I said, this will be recorded, but we have any other brave souls that want to raise their hand or write into the chat?
Yeah, and while we're waiting for questions, this is by no means ending it, but I want to put our contact information up just in case people need to run. But please feel free to ask more questions. Me changing slides was not meant to deter you.
Yeah, and so many pilot programs. That must be a record simultaneous number, right? Like that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
We were just shocked by the number of pilot programs, and I know we spent a lot of time talking through those on the front end, but we really wanted to make sure everybody understood what they were and what was available, because one of the great things about those pilot programs is you're getting to help form what it really looks like once it rolls out to everyone, if it's something that you feel will benefit your business. And that means you're on the front line and you're getting a say in how it's developed from a small group so that you can get your needs met before it is rolled out to everybody. And that's why we wanted to make sure you knew what they were so that you could participate and make it the best for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like early sneak peek, if you will. Plus, you get to like probably help shape the product with your feedback. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. It's an amazing thing. Well, I just know that we really appreciate you being here. We're so excited for all the updates that Intacct has rolled out. If you have questions, we want to hear them. If you're more the strong, silent, private type and you don't want to get wordy until there are fewer people involved, reach out to us. We can set up a private meeting. We're happy to help you with anything that you need.
Absolutely. Well, okay, attendees. If there's no other live questions, I know we have gone over about 5 minutes here, so we'll just wrap it up. And Ansley, thanks so much for reviewing all of your highlights. As mentioned earlier, there is much more. I had to limit Ansley on what she covered here, but just in nature of time, no hour could cover all the beautiful things that have happened already this year. So please engage with that guide that we sent, and then also just engage with your support team. Just pick their brains because they're, big technology fans just like you. And with that, I'll go ahead and close this out. So thanks so much, Ansley, and thank you for joining us. Have a great
Thanks,
rest of your day.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.